The real reason America has no bullet trains, racing ahead, the global rail revolution. Imagine cruising at 200 miles per hour in perfect comfort, watching cities and landscapes blur by your window while you work, relax, or enjoy a meal, all without security lines, traffic jams, or weather delays. This everyday reality serves billions of passengers worldwide through sophisticated high-speed rail networks that have revolutionized transportation across Asia and Europe. China has constructed an astonishing 19,000 miles of high-speed rail in just over a decade, while Japan's legendary bullet trains have transported over 9 billion passengers without a single fatality since their 1960s debut. Europe's interconnected system allows travelers to journey from London to Paris, Madrid to Barcelona, or Berlin to Munich faster and more conveniently than flying these distances. These engineering marvels don't merely represent technological achievement, they embody fundamentally different visions about mobility, community design, and environmental responsibility. For journeys between 100 and 500 miles, high-speed trains consistently outperform both cars and planes in convenience, comfort, and environmental impact. When Spain launched high-speed service between Madrid and Barcelona, air travel between these cities plummeted as travelers overwhelmingly chose the rail option. This global transportation revolution has spread to developing nations like Morocco, Saudi Arabia, and India, all recognizing that modern rail forms an essential component of 21st century infrastructure. Fallen legacy. How America lost its rails. America once stood as the world's undisputed railway leader, with an extensive network connecting communities, large and small, across the nation. Before World War II, passenger trains dominated intercity travel, while streetcars provided efficient urban transportation, creating vibrant, walkable communities throughout the country. This robust system represented American engineering excellence and innovation, until a carefully orchestrated transformation dramatically altered our transportation landscape and national character. The decline began when a powerful coalition of automotive, oil, and tire companies, including General Motors, Firestone, and Standard Oil, systematically purchased and dismantled America's extensive streetcar networks across dozens of cities. The decisive turning point came in 1956, when President Eisenhower signed the Federal Aid Highway Act, allocating an unprecedented $25 billion to construct 41,000 miles of interstate highways, with the federal government covering 90% of costs. Government messaging portrayed highways as pathways to freedom and prosperity. Declaring this highway means a whole new way of life for the children. Within a generation, America transformed from a rail-served nation to an auto-dependent society, now maintaining approximately 850 cars per 1,000 inhabitants, more than triple China's rate and substantially higher than any European country. Current reality. America's rail disadvantage. Today's American passenger rail system represents a stark contrast to international high-speed networks. With Amtrak serving as the primary operator, despite chronic underfunding and infrastructure challenges, only one Amtrak line approaches high-speed classification by international standards: the Acela service connecting Washington, D.C., New York, and Boston, which technically reaches 150 miles per hour, but astonishingly, only on 34 miles of its 457-mile route. The average speed between major destinations like New York and Boston hovers around 65 miles per hour, less than half what passengers experience in Europe or Asia, where trains routinely operate above 180 miles per hour. The fundamental limitations extend beyond equipment to the infrastructure itself, was an Amtrak official explaining. The Northeast Corridor has significant curvature and challenging geometry. We reoperating on alignments designed in the early 1900s, never intended for high-speed operation. Throughout most of the country, passenger trains share tracks with freight rail, creating delays and restricting potential speeds. This transportation disadvantage carries economic consequences, with congested highways and airports reaching capacity limits in major corridors. One transportation planner observes, states across the U.S. are recognizing they are running out of space to expand their highways and interstates. A better rail system offers a viable solution that most Americans would embrace. Green benefits. The environmental advantage. High-speed rail offers substantial environmental advantages, increasingly critical in addressing climate challenges. With transportation accounting for nearly 30% of America's greenhouse gas emissions, modern electrified train systems produce significantly lower carbon emissions per passenger mile than both automotive and air travel, particularly when powered by renewable energy sources, increasingly common across Europe and Asia. This environmental performance represents more than theoretical benefit. Studies show high-speed rail projects could reduce carbon emissions by millions of tons annually in busy corridors, while simultaneously reducing air pollution along congested highways. Americans appear increasingly receptive to this transportation alternative, with surveys revealing 63% would choose high-speed rail if available, with even stronger interest among younger generations prioritizing environmental considerations. The benefits extend beyond emissions reduction to land use efficiency, with rail infrastructure requiring substantially less space than equivalent highway capacity. Placing just 25% of short-haul flights with high-speed rail connections would dramatically reduce airport congestion while providing superior service for these distances. As climate concerns intensify and urban density increases, the absence of viable rail alternatives represents not just a transportation gap, but an environmental liability that compounds with each passing year. Emerging projects. America's rail renaissance attempts. Several ambitious high-speed rail initiatives are challenging America's transportation status quo despite formidable obstacles and entrenched interests. California's voter-approved high-speed rail project, America most comprehensive effort, began construction in the Central Valley with plans for trains exceeding 200 miles per hour, connecting San Francisco to Los Angeles, potentially transforming travel in America's most populous state. Texas Central proposes a privately funded bullet train connecting Houston and Dallas using proven Japanese technology, promising to convert a tedious 4-hour drive into a comfortable 90-minute journey without taxpayer subsidies. In Florida, Virgin Trains has already launched higher speed service between Miami and West Palm Beach, with Orlando connections underway, while the Pacific Northwest explores Portland, Seattle, Vancouver connections with backing from Microsoft and other tech companies. These pioneering projects face daunting challenges, particularly regarding costs that typically range from $20 to $80 million per mile, depending on terrain and land acquisition requirements. Unlike China, where government owns land, American projects must purchase right-of-way from private landowners, often at premium prices that dramatically inflate budgets. Environmental reviews, litigation, regulatory compliance, and coordination across multiple jurisdictions add years of delays and billions in expenses. The Texas project director explains their private sector approach. We're taking what is a laborious, unreliable 4-hour drive if you're lucky, and turning that into a reliable, safe 90 minutes. Despite these obstacles, each successful segment brings America closer to rejoining the global high-speed rail community after decades of absence. Crossroads. America's transportation future. America stands at a pivotal transportation crossroads with compelling forces pushing both for and against high-speed rail development in coming decades. Optimists highlight increasing highway and airport congestion, growing climate change awareness, shifting preferences among younger Americans, less attached to car ownership than previous generations. Several promising projects continue advancing despite setbacks, suggesting momentum may finally be building after decades of stagnation. The transformative potential remains clear. High-speed rail could reconnect communities, revitalize regional economies, reduce transportation emissions, and offer a more sustainable vision of mobility that aligns with global best practices. Skeptics emphasize the enormous costs, entrenched political opposition, and America's deeply rooted car culture as barriers potentially too formidable to overcome without unprecedented political will. This could be decades before Americans enjoy the kind of comprehensive high-speed rail networks that exist in Europe and Asia, cautions one transportation expert. Yet the status quo carries its own mounting costs: in productivity lost to congestion, environmental damage, and diminished quality of life as existing transportation networks reach capacity limits. As other nations continue expanding their high-speed networks, America faces an increasingly consequential choice about its transportation future that will shape not just how we travel, but how our communities develop, economies function, and environmental challenges are addressed for generations to come. Thank you for joining us on this journey through America's complex relationship with high-speed rail. If this exploration sparked your curiosity about how transportation shapes our world, please subscribe to Mindcrafted for more deep dives into the technologies and policies defining our future. Hit that like button if you found value in today's video and share your thoughts in the comments. Would you choose high-speed rail over flying or driving if it were available near you? Which routes would most transform your travel experience? Your perspectives help guide our future content, so join the conversation below.